Welcome to the Do You Ever Wonder podcast. Ever find yourself wondering about the world's biggest topics? Join your host, Mike Haltman, CEO, board chair, and all-around deep thinker, as he dives into real estate, investing, national security, self-improvement, dating, networking, finance, and so much more. Expert guests, real conversations, no limits. Hit subscribe and get ready for insights, surprises, and conversations that will make you think. The Do You Ever Wonder podcast starts now.
Welcome
to the Do You Ever Wonder.
Oh, that's what happens with live TV, man. That's not good. Anyway, yes, this is the Do You Ever Wonder podcast, and yes, I am Mike Haltman, and today we're very happy to have as our guest Gabe Einhorn. Gabe is multifaceted, and that's what really interested me. I wondered about not just what he does for a living, but actually, I guess the other thing he does for a living as well. But very interesting guy, and I welcome you, Gabe.
Thanks for having me, Mike. A couple of things actually from that. First of all, intro is very professional. I gotta get one of those for myself. But one thing that stood out was the dating. I didn't know that you were a dating coach.
Listen, well, no, actually, so I put that in there, and it's great because when you make the intro, you can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
But I actually did have two sisters on one of my episodes, and they created an AI dating website. And the way that it works is you can make a profile if you want, but you don't have to. Basically, what you do is upload a picture of your face, and AI analyzes your face for your personality traits. I mean, I was going to do it, but I didn't do it. I didn't think my wife would like it. But fascinating.
Yeah.
I thought it was fascinating. But you know what? You're not the first one who's commented on the dating thing.
Yeah. It just
You know,
stands out.
yeah. But it's interesting when you do create these intros. You can really write whatever script you want and present it any way that you want. So it's a
Sure.
beautiful thing. But
Yeah, it's
but
it's your world.
yeah. So in any event, I was trying to remember before how you and I met. I wasn't quite sure. I didn't quite get drilled down to exactly how, but in any event, we did meet, and I think what you do is fascinating. Not so much the commercial mortgage lending, that's interesting, and I actually used to own a commercial mortgage lending company. But what we'll get to in a little while is your clothing brand by the name Praise. Is it Go Praise or Praise?
So the clothing brand is Praise.
Okay.
When we were looking for the websites, praise.com was taken.
Mm.
So we thought, okay, the idea of the brand is to go pray. So go praise was available. We're like, let's do it.
And just to be clear, it's Prays, not Praise. So
Yep.
it's a spiritual clothing brand, and we will get to that. But in the meat first, you're involved in commercial mortgage lending, and as a former commercial mortgage lender, I'm always curious. You're somewhat younger, and where did you learn commercial mortgages and the commercial real estate realm is so much different than anything that you may have been exposed to before. I always say you could have two buildings side by side with very different values, and the underwriting is sometimes difficult, and the borrowers are often difficult, not just in terms of who they are, but what their financial profile looks like. So, how did you what brought you there?
Yeah. So funny story. I always had this idea of being in real estate. I always liked driving by new buildings, developments. And people always spoke about, my community, real estate, real estate, real estate's the best thing to do. Got to be in real estate. So when I started my MBA after I finished undergrad, I decided I was going to go into real estate. Right? I originally worked with my family's furniture company growing up in high school. Went with my dad to the factory where they manufacture furniture in New Jersey. It wasn't really for me. So they sent me out on the sales team, go to events. I was better at that, definitely better than being in the factory at 4 a.m. in the morning every morning. But still wanted to do something different. My dad's like, I want you to go make a name for yourself, go find what you love. Um, that's what I want you to do. And so I decided real estate was that. And I basically cold called and reached out to a bunch of different real estate companies as I was starting my MBA. Ended up at a small shop, a mortgage brokerage in New Jersey, thinking that it was investment sales. I thought real estate was just, buying, selling, and building, building new buildings and buying and selling them. And I get there and they start talking about financing and mortgages, and I was lost. I didn't even know that it was a thing.
This
Took
is
me a
after
couple.
you already started?
Yeah, yeah. I like my first day, like first day of the job, and I basically got there and like they hired me because he basically said like I love that you basically just called me and said you want a job. I
Yep.
respect that. I'll give you the opportunity. And they didn't tell me exactly what the role was to show up for the first day and kind of hit me like a truck and took me a couple months to understand the basics and been doing that ever since. I'm now at a new shop. I live in New York City now. Um, and I'm still learning every day. I mean, it's been a little over 2 years and there's still so much to learn.
Absolutely.
It's fun, it's a hustle, but
So when you looked at real estate as, buying and selling buildings, it didn't occur to you, hey, how do people pay for those buildings?
Yeah, I mean, and it's actually funny because I speak to a lot of people, a lot of my target audience is younger people as well, whether they're in the real estate industry or they're getting into it. And people just don't know about the debt side of things. They think that people buy buildings and, you have to have a lot of money to buy buildings and that's it. And
Well,
obviously you have to have money, but people don't understand the leverage side of things
interesting.
that, yeah,
Very interesting because, when you buy a house, people understand that you're getting a mortgage.
mortgage, yeah.
So it's interesting that people don't realize that when you're buying a $50 million building, you might be doing the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
So
it's
did,
funny.
did you use the word leverage?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean listen, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
If you can put 20% down and control a $50 million asset, that's pretty good.
Incredible. Yeah, that's what I'm working on figuring out for myself as well. Hopefully, at the right time, I'll be able to start doing it on my own, something that I've always wanted to do. So we're working on that on the side as well.
That's great. So you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah, yeah. I've always had a knack for just going out and making things happen. Had my own sneaker reselling company back in high school when I was 15, 16. Would wait on lines with hundreds of people getting, the newest sneaker drop and then you resell it for a couple $100
That's
the
great.
next day. So always had a knack for that and then learned drop shipping as well, e-commerce over COVID, made some money there and just
Terrific.
always wanted to go out and make things happen.
You're a mover and a shaker, man.
Exactly.
That's great. So you said you get you're dealing with a lot of younger people. How do you find them?
Yeah, I think especially going to events and now through LinkedIn as well, it's powerful and been getting very active on LinkedIn, especially the last couple months. I think I just been attracting people who are younger as I've been expressing myself not as some real estate expert who's been in the industry for 20 years, but someone who is obviously learning still. I know enough. We have a great company behind us, and I'm just being myself, and people, I guess, connect with that. I definitely have plenty of clients that are older as well, working with an 80-year-old client in New York City. So that's obviously, not a younger client. But
Um,
I don't know. I'm not like specifically targeting them. I guess it's just what comes with it.
that's great, but you brought up an important term that an important idea that you yourself, you're authentic.
Yeah.
People definitely respond to authenticity.
For sure. That's what I've seen. So I started posting daily on LinkedIn in December. I've had the app for 2 years. That's how I got my job to start 2 years ago. But I was never posting. I was just connecting with people and I would, message people whether I was trying to find deals or connect with them. And people kept telling me, you got to start posting. Like that's the
Right.
best way to get your name out there, to meet new people. And so in December, I decided I'm finally going to do it. I'm not going to be afraid of what people are going to say. I'm not going to be afraid of, bad posts or saying the wrong things. Like, I'm just gonna go out and do it. And that first month, I overthought it a lot. Every post I was trying to sound like some real estate expert, throwing out different statistics and articles and all the market data. And that wasn't me because I'm no, genius in real estate yet. I've been doing it for 2 years.
So what's an idea of something you post about?
So like today, we're working on a new video series. I just posted the first video today and going around New York City, finding different hidden gems, places in New York City that are not as well known, that if they were in other cities, they would probably be, a top 5, 10 attraction. Everyone would know it, but in New York City, there's so much good stuff, so much well-known stuff that some of this other amazing properties and locations get overlooked. So
So,
just
so
like
give
a
me an
fun idea.
example. What's an
Um,
example of a hidden gem?
so I went the video about today is Park Avenue Synagogue. It's a beautiful synagogue, 5,000 plus members. I've never been there personally, and I went last week when I was filming it, and it's just, a cool idea. And that was just in like the Upper East Side that we were doing it. And I'm gonna go, hopefully, people comment down below a bunch of different ideas of places in New York City that I could go to as well, because it's
So
gonna be
are you looking for more spiritual places or really any place?
anything that has, cool information, something that's super interesting about it that
Right.
people don't know as much, but if they did know about it, it would definitely excite them.
There's an interesting website called, I think it's called Untapped New York.
Yeah. Yeah.
And every day, I don't know if you're familiar with it.
No, no, I never heard of it.
So every day they post different things of kind
Okay.
of hidden things, like whether it's about something about Grand Central Station you might not know about, or something about some hotel. It's interesting.
I gotta check that out.
I would check it out.
That's gonna
I
be
would
the
check it
next
out.
the next collaboration. I'll get them on board and we'll start making some cool videos.
And that would be great, man. You know what? It's all about collaboration.
Exactly, exactly.
So it's about collaboration in commercial mortgages as well. Not to segue back to your what you're doing, but do you work as a team or you do it all on your own?
Yes, I work with a team. It's a small team. We have about 6 guys on the commercial side and 4 on the residential side that are doing, primary residences, residential mortgages. So we got a great team, a couple other originators. My main job is going out, originating deals, meeting new clients, bringing in new deals. I have a head of capital markets who helps me go through the underwrite and put the whole deal together, the whole package, and then we basically have our lenders and we arrange it properly. I have my boss as well who gets involved in some deals and we work together well.
So who presents the deal? So, when I owned my company, you could have two people presenting the same deal, and an underwriter would approve one guy, and DK the other one because a lot of it's built on trust. The
Yeah.
underwriter needs to know that the source the deal's coming from knows what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
So, who in your company, and maybe it's you, if you have a deal, you've underwritten it, you put the package together, who goes to the underwriter at the bank, whichever bank it is, and presents it?
Yeah, so that's my head of capital markets. He has all the banking relationships. He started off at Eastern Union and then he was at G Parency for a little bit as they were starting up. So he has a lot of close banking relationships. So he usually handles the direct conversations with them when he brings the deal in. He has the whole package together and then he makes those emails and those phone calls to discuss with, the lenders that he knows best that would fit the deal.
Right. So now, do you sit on those calls as well?
Yeah, I try to sit on as many as I can, the calls, the emails. Um, Sometimes I'm, out in events and obviously
Right.
rich deals, so it's not always so simple, but the important calls I'm usually involved in.
That's great. And how many different lenders does your company work with? 100, 200, 10?
Yeah, I mean, we have like a database of like 4,000.
Right.
Obviously, we don't tap into all of them. I would say like between the, 10 to 15 deals that I have in the pipeline right now, there's probably a range of like 25 to
Okay.
50 lenders that are involved in some form. Usually, each deal kind of comes down to like two, three, maybe five at most that are
Oh
actually
yeah.
invested.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lender who has an appetite for every different kind of property type. So,
Yeah,
yeah, right. It's different strokes for different folks. But
exactly.
what size deals do you have in the pipeline?
So right now I have a couple deals in like the actually two deals that are both 2.4 million. Smaller deals, actually really, really great clients, people that I'm just enjoying working with, which makes it more enjoyable and fun to work with people that you actually, feel connected with. I've had my fair share of clients who it's been kind of miserable to work with them, just causing you problems left and right, and
I'm
you can
sure.
never please them.
Yep.
So those deals are really fun. Working on a $22 million office refi actually for a company that we're working on two tricky bridge loans for them. They have two land deals that they are still waiting on construction loans for, and they need bridge. So we're trying to put together some sort of package for them that's going to probably come out to like 12 million total for both
Nice.
properties. And then happens to be that while we're working on that, they're like, our office loan is coming up, like their actual office
Right.
that they own, and they're like, it's coming up, like, could we work on some sort of refi on it?
Great.
So that's a cool one.
That's great. So how did you meet these guys?
So those guys I met at an event in New Jersey. Um, and then one of the deals I'm working on was a referral from someone I met from LinkedIn. I connected with him on LinkedIn. He reached out about financing. I called him up, said let's meet in person. He's in New Jersey. Drove down to wherever he was in New Jersey. We met in person, started working on one of his deals that he's doing in Nashville. And then he called me
Nice.
a couple weeks later and he's like, I got another friend who needs to refinance in South Jersey. Could you help him out?
Beautiful. That's great.
Yeah.
You know what? I think the fact that you want to meet in person is fantastic. Most people don't
Yeah.
or are too lazy to. So I think that's fantastic. I mean, I think obviously you have the drive, and as you learn more and more and get more comfortable with the underwriting part, then I think you're going to do great. I mean, what's your ultimate goal is to open your own company.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily in the mortgage debt financing realm. Like I said earlier, I really want to own properties, and my goal is to learn how to do that through obviously what I'm doing now, which is being involved, in the ins and outs of the deals, understanding the financing side, understanding what it takes to get a deal from start to finish, and
Right.
hopefully have the knowledge to go out and start buying some smaller properties, on my own and, with the family as well, and eventually build a big enough portfolio that will kind of be my main focus.
You know what? That is a very good goal. Ambitious,
Yeah, of
but good. And you need obviously you need the seed money to be able to do
course.
that. But I'm sure you will figure that all out. I think that's great. But that's your financial side. So what struck me was your clothing brand,
Yeah.
and it's would you say it's non-denominational?
Um, what do you mean by that exactly? What does that mean?
Uh, oh, non-denominational means it's not specific to any one religion.
Okay, yes, that's a new word that I'm gonna
Is
start
that
using.
right?
Yes.
Wow. Wow, that's a
Yeah,
pretty good word.
it's a great word, and
Yeah,
that
yeah. I
describes
use it in my
exactly what we're
charity
doing.
all the time because, while we have we're faith-based, but it
Yeah,
is strictly non-denominational. So
I love that. Yeah,
very
that's
cool.
that's exactly what we are, and I've actually just been saying like we're not, specific to one religion, or we're open to all religions, but I mean non-denominational is a much
It's a
cleaner.
cleaner, right, right. It's a clean word. It's a
It's
clean
great,
word.
yeah.
So tell me, now that we've landed on non-denominational, what is your mission?
Yeah, so our mission and kind of going back a little bit and how I had the idea of the brand is so I grew up in a Jewish modern Orthodox family community. I thank God that I was brought up in such a great community. I had amazing people around me, amazing parents as role models, and there were some times where there's specific moments and things that you if they try to fit you into a box kind of where like everybody has to follow the same path and rules. And I always had my own connection to God. I had my own way of expressing it, and I felt like you can't put me into a box. And I feel like no one should be put into a box. Everybody has their own personal connection because it's a personal journey. And I'm blessed to have two parents who always led by action. They never forced me to do anything. They always let me find my own way. And that kind of led me to make my own journey and connection to God. And I always wanted to express that. And over the summer, I was thinking of different ideas. I've always wanted to do something about it. And I've always been passionate about my faith, something that I pray every day, 3 times a day. And it was something I wanted to do more, like be involved more, do something. One day I just had a dream, like, let me just make a clothing brand, like put biblical quotes on the back of the shirts and start a whole movement and make it non-denominational, make it connect to all. It actually stemmed originally from when President Trump got shot at. And I was watching all the news conferences, and someone said, one of the news reporters said, this was an act of someone who does not believe in God, or this is an ungodly act. Like things like this, terrorist, like crazy events, are usually caused by people who don't like don't have a God that follows them. They think that they could control the world. They think that they are, you know, the end all be all. And that hit me, and I was like, there's so many people who do believe in God, and we should all be brought together through that connection, whether we're Jewish, Christian, Muslim, whatever it is. Like that belief in God is something that holds us down and gives us a moral guide to live a better life. And in a world that's so separate right now, it's a way that everyone could be connected and come together. So that was kind of the whole idea of the brand, and obviously being non-denominational, that is a way to spread to all religions and bring us together in that way.
So, I mean, that's interesting, and I think it's a phenomenally worthwhile endeavor. I think that, and you know, one of my daughters got married a week after October 7th, and I think what you had started your company before that?
No, no, I started
Oh,
at this.
after that.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I think and now I'm Jewish as well, and you know what your goal is incredibly good. The issue is that it's incredibly difficult to bridge the divide
yeah,
of hatred, and not just this group to this group, but it's like a universal dislike, and to bridge that. And I think it's great, and if you can do it, you might win the Nobel Peace Prize. But so are you selling? You're selling. You
yeah. So basically, so that was the initial idea essentially to to bridge the hate gap as much as possible, bring people together, and it was just the clothing, right? That's how it started. I made a bunch of cool designs, made it, something that people would actually want to wear and be proud to wear. Um, and I spoke to a lot of different people, and they're like, you have to add something to the brand. You have to add an element, some sort of
a
content.
hook. You need a hook.
Yeah, but they're like, you got to make some sort of content and do something. So I thought for a couple months before I really launched the brand, and finally around February, I had the idea that I'm going to go out in New York City and wherever I am and do street interview type of content, videos, stop random people in the streets. Doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, and just talk, ask you, do you believe in God? Did you pray today? Ask those type of questions and spark those conversations. Obviously it's not easy to do it. It gets me very out of my comfort zone, and I'm getting better at doing it. But
What was the general reception? Most people
most people keep walking.
hesitate when people they keep walking,
Yeah, yeah. Most people
but
keep walking. Some people will say, "I'm not interested. I don't want to be on camera," or "I don't want to answer your questions." I've had some people, say some
oh, sure,
anti-Semitic or not so nice
sure,
comments.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, but I haven't had a day that I've done the content that I haven't gotten good interviews and good conversations. And that makes it all worth it because I'm speaking to a Muslim or a Christian or Catholic or even another Jew, and we could speak for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just
What
about
uh,
all
what
that stuff.
what religion, if you and maybe sometimes you don't even know, but who's most responsive?
I mean, when I wear my keep out,
Yeah,
definitely attract plenty of Jews to come.
right.
But I mean, there's so many Christians just walking around the streets, people that are very avid and believing in Jesus and passionate about it. So I've had a lot of people like that. I've had plenty of people who don't believe in a specific God and they think
Right.
that there's some sort of creator. They don't follow, one sort of religion. I've actually had a lot of those, which is very interesting.
So now, would you go hang out outside of St. Patrick's Cathedral or outside of a synagogue or outside of a mosque? I know I think there's one on 100 and up. I used to pass it, but
Yeah,
is that more of a, because there you're obviously dealing with people of faith, and maybe the question is more along the lines of you're obviously faithful. How do you feel about other faiths?
yeah, yeah. So we've done a couple. I actually passed by a Saint Patrick's church yesterday, which is really cool. I didn't have time to do any interviews out there.
Have you ever gone inside?
No, I have not gone inside yet, but I saw the outside yesterday for the first time, and it was
Phenomenal.
beautiful.
We went to Italy and
Yeah,
we went to Spain, and going inside these cathedrals, it's just astounding. You know,
yeah,
my oldest daughter went to Temple Emmanuel, and
okay.
that's beautiful.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got married at Temple Israel in Cedarhurst, which
Okay, of
is beautiful.
course, yeah.
But cathedrals are just,
Incredible.
yeah, incredible. But
So
uh,
I went to Italy also. My brother was studying in Florence this past semester, so we got to go visit. So we saw a lot of those beautiful cathedrals. We went to the synagogue in Rome. We went there for Shabbat. It was beautiful. It's that synagogue was more like the cathedrals that we see,
yeah,
and unlike the synagogues that we have here, which was beautiful to see.
we actually went to a synagogue in China. China
Yeah.
had a large Jewish. I think it was Shanghai was one of the few countries. China was one of the few countries in the world, I believe, who took in refugees from
Wow.
Germany.
Wow, wow. I didn't know that they even had any like I thought China was just like, you know, Chinese. Like I thought that they're very like a bubble. I mean, I spoke to someone last week who whatever, it's a whole nother rant who was talking about how China is like their own bubble. And they don't allow anything from the outside to come in.
Well, I mean, the Jews came in. I don't know if it was after Mao Zedong or before, but
Yeah.
I don't know that China was always so closed. But I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But so it's interesting. So I don't remember your answer, or maybe I didn't ask the question. Most of the people who are buying your clothing, you can't ask them obviously what faith they are.
Yeah.
But what do you think? Who's right now? Who is your the demographic of who's buying your clothing?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of Jewish and Christian.
Right.
Just because Jewish is just we've been in touch with a lot of people within my inner community who are Jewish who have helped support the brand and buy, so that's kind of an easy one. But in general, I think Christian, there's a lot of Christian brands out there already that have similar ideas, and the idea of putting the biblical quotes on the back, I think is gaining a lot of interest from a lot of Christians. Spoken to a lot of different Christians in the real estate industry as well as athletes, influencers. So many of them are very proud of their faith. Um, whether it's, saying prayers before their games or, promoting it on their Instagram and YouTube and all those channels. So definitely a mix of those two.
So have you gone to, I do this all the time. I reach out to, when I watch shows, I reach out to the hosts and I tell them about my charity and I try and get onto their shows. It's hard,
Yeah.
but you have a little more of a hook. I think, have you ever thought of trying to reach out? I guess you would call it public relations or a publicist, but in terms of reaching out to, there are a lot of faith-based or faithful personalities on
Yeah.
TV. And I got to tell you, I watch some of these shows. Like full disclosure, I watch a lot of Fox,
Yeah.
and
Same.
they have, they'll bring on a small company who's doing something unique, and they're very, they're very prayerful.
Yeah.
They're very faith oriented, and that might be, I was actually on Brian Kilmeade's radio show once for my charity. I had Pete Hegseth, the now Secretary of Defense, but he did a Zoom for me on about Israel
Okay.
and his love for the military and how, just Israel is such a key cog in spirituality and faith. So,
Yeah.
I mean, my recommendation would be to try and pitch your clothing brand to some of these shows because you never know.
For sure, yeah. It doesn't hurt to ask. I mean, if you have any connections in the doors there, we'll talk about it after the show.
Absolutely, absolutely. But you know, you want to hit the greatest platform.
Outreach, yeah, you got to get the biggest bang for your buck. So,
Absolutely.
that's why obviously I'm targeting people within my community, friends, family, but obviously the biggest targets are going to be people with larger platforms, athletes, influencers, people on TV shows, because you have hundreds of thousands of people that are looking at your stuff. It's a much
Absolutely.
bigger pitch than, going to my grandma who has a couple friends.
And if you can get free publicity, that's
Exactly.
the mother lode. So
Yeah,
no, that's great. I think you'll be successful. It's hard. I
yeah.
know my two daughters. So I have a son, but my two daughters tried to create a clothing brand and sell things, and that closed many years ago.
It's a cutthroat industry for sure. That's
Oh yeah,
that's why I would have never. I've always been very into fashion, and I was doing sneaker reselling and buying and selling clothes, and I always wanted to make my own thing. People have told me you should make your own thing, but it's almost impossible to make it unless you get really lucky. But that's why adding the faith element to it makes us very niche, and I think it gives
yeah,
us a great shot to get indoors and and make it more than just a clothing brand, like we say. We say it's more than a clothing brand; it's a movement. So
yeah. So if you go and you do use LinkedIn, if you go online and put in Fox and all capitals and because it's what's that called? Something Belugian search, something like that. But if you put in Fox and producer,
okay.
because it's the show producers or bookers,
Mhm.
because those are the people who really, I guess, make the decisions.
Yeah,
I think I shoot too high. I go right to the hosts, and I don't know that that's the most effective way to do it. But yeah, LinkedIn is a fantastic tool. There are so many faith-based networks, and I think you'll do well. And you're eager and you're willing to put yourself out there, and that's what it's all about. So here's a guy. He's a commercial real estate guy, and he's a fashionista. I don't know if that's the female. I don't know how that works, but you know what, Gabe? You're going to do very well.
thank
I
you.
I would love to have you back in a year and see where you've gotten to.
For sure. I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on, and
Absolutely.
we'll do another check-in a year from now, and I'm aiming for some big things for a year from now. We'll do a follow-up. Hopefully, we'll
Absolutely.
be on Fox at least one time by next.
Yeah. And you know what? And don't forget, I want to be on your podcast
I
to talk
got you.
about your
Yeah,
charity.
I
All
will.
right. All right, Gabe. Thank you. And
Thank you.
hold on.
Your podcast. Ever find yourself wondering about the world's biggest topic?
All right. Again, live
Thanks for
TV.
tuning in. See you next time. That's a wrap for this episode of Do You Ever Wonder? Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, hit that subscribe button, share it with a friend, and drop us a review. We'll be back soon with more insights, experts, and conversations that make you think. See you next time. Do you ever wonder where curiosity meets conversation?